welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, the Beta Lambda chapter brings to you a conversation about coexisting in faith paths. And tonight, we're going to cover reconciling the relationship between queer and faith ladies. So, the women of the Beta Lambda chapter of Beta Phi Omega Sorority Incorporated welcome you to the table. Tonight, we have some wonderful guests, all of my sorors from different faith paths. And we're going to discuss this topic again, reconciling how we show up in our many different faith paths. So, tonight, I'm going to bring to you some amazing women with some amazing information. And we're just going to keep this conversational, everyone. So, get ready, settle in, grab your cup with some water, and let's begin the conversation. As your host for tonight, I am Joy Francis Johnson, known in my faith community as Ianifa Ifadayo. And I am coming to you tonight representing the wonderful and loving Isheshe community. And so I want to bring forth my sorors, and I'm going to go ahead and have them each introduce themselves as soon as we can go ahead and get them into the show. And so first and foremost, I have my co-founder, also a member of the Isheshe family, Miss Nicole Lanier, known in our faith path as Iya Ifa Loyin. And please introduce yourself.
Hi, Joy. Thank you for the introduction. I am also a part of the Isheshe community and faith, and I am an Ianifa. I am initiated to Ifa, Oshun, and Olokun. And I'm just happy to talk about spirituality and religion today. So thank you for
Beautiful.
having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm so happy to have you at the table. Our next guest for this evening, another member of our community. This is Aborisha Odo Yale. Please, Samantha, my soul,
Hi.
introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Samantha Otoyale, and I'm so grateful to be here. I am an Aberisha, a practicing Black Witch with Black Witch University, also an apprentice, and we are a coven. Um, what else can I say? Oh, grew up in a hoodoo home. So family has long practiced hoodoo and still do. So I'm grateful for their tutelage and grateful to be here.
Well, welcome, and thank you so much for coming. And next we have my lion sister, the incomparable Pastor Leslie. And I think you're muted, sis. Let's go ahead and get that
Hey,
microphone unmuted.
hi, everyone. Hi, LS. Hi, Sam. Hi, Nicole. Love to you,
Hey.
sisters. My name is Pastor Leslie Esai Oliver, pastor of Sanctuary Outreach Ministries. I am a self-proclaimed queer Black womanist theologian. I grew up in the Pentecostal tradition and became free in the non-denominational tradition with Unity Fellowship Church movement. And I am here to have the conversation and hopefully free people that you're freer than you were when you came into the conversation. So I'm excited.
Shay.
Ashe. And next we have my wonderful soror, Cherise. Please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your faith path.
Greetings, everyone. Peace, sorors. How are you? I'm so excited to be in this room, in this forum. My name is Sharice Austin. I am representing a part of the Islamic community. I am Muslim. My chosen Muslim name is Safia El Amin, and I am so very excited. This conversation is necessary. I wish that I had it. 13, 14 years ago. So I'm just excited to be a part of it and here with my sorors.
Awesome. And next we have the amazing, who's the queen herself, Priestess Nyla. Please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Nyla Mitchell. I am an intentional practicer of hoodoo conjure root work. Although I am a student of many spiritual schools of thought.
Awesome. Welcome. And we saved the best for last. My soror Kim, please go ahead and introduce yourself and your faith path.
Sure. Good evening, sorors. It's great to see you all. I am an 8-year practicing member of the Soka Gakkai International, and I practice Nichiren Buddhism, which hails from Japan. So really glad to be with all of you and looking forward to learning more about in the conversation.
Awesome. Well, ladies, I definitely want to welcome you again. Thank you for your yes. And let's go ahead and jump into it because I know the community of people that are listening, they may not understand the dynamic aspects of our organization and all of the women that compromise or come together to build that name. And so my first question is, how would you describe your faith path in the most simplistic terms?
I would say organized and freeing equally because they both require a lot of study. But in turn, it allows me to have the kind of freedom I need spiritually. So I would say that's the simplistic.
Freedom, thank you. Freedom. What are some other ways we can talk about our faith in the most simplest terms?
I have one. I'm going to borrow a line from Intozaki Shange, who wrote For Girl Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough. She said, I found God in myself and I loved her fiercely. And so I grabbed onto that phrase as I walked into a non denominational experience with Unity Fellowship. Once I knew that God was inside of me, I never let go.
Awesome. That's beautiful.
I would definitely say individual. My relationship with my Lord is something that I've had to cultivate and to understand, to accept, and really just an individual experience that I'm just appreciative and grateful that I have.
I would say one of the lines that we use is world peace through individual happiness. And one of the main tenets of our practice is to create and cultivate world peace. And we believe that the happier one is, the more peace that there will be. So, and we're always working to actualize that happiness from within, that everything that we need is within us. We just need to bring it out.
That's deep. Anyone else want to lend what their faith is like in the simplest terms?
I'll go. I would say for me, it has been transformative, healing, and sometimes very scary. Sometimes terrifying. just being honest. Sometimes terrifying because it makes it causes you to delve into shadow self and a lot of generational things, and so sometimes that's terrifying. It's scary.
Okay, since everybody else answered. I think the most simplistic term that I would use to describe my personal path is just that it's mine. I think that sometimes when you go looking for God, you find yourself. And when you do, I think that it's just all in staying in the balance.
Awesome. That's beautiful. So there's pretty much a common theme that I heard going on here, and that's freedom. So what in your individual faith paths, what does freedom look like for you or the people that you share in that faith path with?
So I can go first. So freedom in my organization, one is very diverse. So we welcome any and everyone. It's international. So you meet all types of different people, different walks of life, different orientations. All sexual orientations are welcome. And in addition, the freedom also means freedom in our own individual lives, because part of my faith is really challenging myself to bring out again that best value that I have within me. So that presents a freedom that I can really accomplish anything and I can tackle anything. So I have replaced a lot of fear with freedom through my faith.
Okay. So replacing fear with freedom. Anyone else want to take a stab at freedom and what it looks like in your faith path?
So for me, I think that I think when I look at myself, I am so small. But when I'm able to channel my energy and channel my love and my worship and my dedication to God, that is limitless. It just gives me so much more confidence, so much more excitement of what I can do. Because if I just kind of look at myself, then sometimes I may feel like I'm so small. But when I'm looking at myself in the eyes of God, in my worship to God, it just is like I can do it. Whatever I got out here that I want to do, I can do it.
Right.
That's deep.
I would say that being able to see myself is liberating. So womanist theology, liberation theology, Black theology tells me and shows me that I'm a part of the narrative. The narrative could not exist without me. And so upon learning that and on my journey, that freed me up quite a bit. Knowing that the first conversation in the sacred text was with a woman of color, that's very liberating. And so when I free myself from the hypocrisy of the people telling my story and realize that it was my story all along, that's liberating. And I walk in that truth every day.
Okay.
I
So
agree, Leslie. With my faith, one of the things that I learned first was about my ancestors and how to venerate them and how to uplift them enough to be able to, one, show you who you are and then guide you along your journey. So for me, my faith definitely helped for me to see myself through my ancestors first. And that was very freeing for me.
awesome. So there are two things that I want to kind of spin off of here based on what was just recently said. The first thing that I definitely want to dig through is liberation. And so I know, Pastor Leslie, you come from a background that deals in liberation theology. And so what exactly does liberation theology cover? What does that mean for the person that might still be listening and bound, by what their faith path taught them was wrong?
So simply put, let's break it up. Liberation is freedom. Theology is the relationship between God and humankind. There's a freedom in the relationship. Liberation theology teaches you to be free in your understanding of who God is to you and who you are to God. We have been swallowing and digesting what someone else told us God is, number one, hence the white Jesus on the wall. But if we look at our narrative and how we have travailed through time, clearly there's a relationship between you and the God of your understanding. There's no one on the planet that can tell me who God is, who they're not living my life and my experience. Liberation theology advocates for the marginalized, and it seeks to give the marginalized a voice and the freedom to know God on their own terms.
Okay. And so with liberation theology and so you said non-denominational, and so I'm thinking like Christian church, is that correct, Pastor?
Not just Christian churches, Catholic churches, people from all walks of life. It doesn't matter what denomination you embrace. But the bottom line is, according to the sacred text, Jesus encountered many conversations with many people, and not once did he judge people from where they came from. He gave people the freedom to talk. Liberation theology gives you the freedom to talk. You don't have to talk through the Bible. You might talk through nature. You might talk through a bird singing. It is your relationship. And that's what we want to get back. It is your relationship. And we take our hands off of it. We take the noose off of it and we just experience God. God is bigger than denomination. God is bigger than a book. So what did the ancestors do before the book got here? So it's freedom to experience God in your understanding. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else want to address liberation in their faith path? What that looks like? Go ahead, Sharice.
That's my switch finger. Listen, I 1,000,000% agree with that. Particularly in Islam, I had a very difficult time trying to come into my sexuality when it came to my religion, and I had a serious issue with that. What I had to come down to is I had to ask myself, Sharice, what is seriously most important? What do I think that God wants from me? He wants my worship. He wants me to love his creation. He wants me to be good to other people. He wants me to help the poor. He wants me to take care of children. He wants me to give to his creation. And that's what he wants. And what else I'm doing, what else, regardless of how much I'm drinking, how much I'm fornicating, how much I'm doing all of these things that you're not supposed to do, I think those things come second. And as long as we hold ourselves into this, hold ourselves captive, you can never be free because we're imperfect. He didn't create any of us that were perfect. He did. There was a couple. There was a couple that he created to be perfect. But it wasn't Sharice. So along with all of my flaws, my love and my dedication to God is what I believe is what's going to sustain me through this life and the next.
Mhm.
So we all have, or let me say to the larger community, God shows up differently in different faith paths. And when I say God shows up differently, I mean like the name, the calling. Some people call God God. Some people call God Allah. How do you, what is the name that you use, right, when you're referring to God in your faith path? And then how do you, just kind of segueing into sexuality, how do you apply your sexuality to your understanding of who God is in your faith path?
Mhm.
So I think I got all of that. And before I forget any of it, I'm gonna go ahead and try to answer. Um, what I call God at any given time depends on the work that I'm doing, you know? It depends on the specific thing that needs to be done. Because sometimes I want to talk to the God of my ancestors. Sometimes I want to talk to my God, which is inside self, you know? Sometimes I might be real hood and I might be like, hey, yo, Sky Daddy, what's up? So it really just depends on, what's happening and what I'm trying to accomplish. As far as my sexuality, that's never really been a barrier for me. I've never let it be a barrier for me. Like it's somebody else's problem. Um, and I'm real quick to like return energy. So if you throw a scripture at me, I'm gonna throw one right back at you. So when it comes to my sexuality, I'm really quick to Philippians 2 and 12 people and tell them, work out your own salvation with fear and tremblance, but leave mine alone. So that's kind of, how I deal with it. But it's really just understanding that God is everything. Within my faith path, God is everything. Altars are everywhere, churches everywhere. So it's not, it's the, like you were saying before, it's the liberation, it's the freedom, it's the understanding that I am free to build my own personal relationship with God, however God and I are interacting today. Because I'm not the same person every day. I'm somebody different. I don't know who I might be tomorrow or how I might present myself. And so that person has a totally different relationship. It's just all based on who I am when I wake up in the morning and what my needs are for the day.
That's awesome. I love that you said Sky Daddy. My older sister calls God Big Daddy. And every time she says it, it's kind of like jarring. Like, don't call God Big Daddy, please. So I'm going to try and get her to say Sky Daddy moving forward.
But I mean, but also like if you're praying for prosperity, Big Daddy, I need some extra change. I mean, that has a certain allure to it.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to take the stab at what do you call God in your faith path? And then
I think, in talking about sexuality and our faith, I identify as pansexual. So for me, I have found certain, and I've been all around the block with various understandings of different spiritual paths. One of my best friends was Jewish, so I had a little bit of that information. So I think that you have to find your tribe, because every church isn't going to be accepting. Every coven isn't going to be accepting. There's a lot of patriarchy. There's a lot of old ways, and people are not open. For me, in terms of God, I I grew up in a hoodoo home, which we still use the Bible. We use the Bible very much. Most of my ancestors are Christian. But I can see God in other people. Sometimes I just know that God shows up in the people that have been my healers. I know that person, I see them and I feel God. I know that that's God. And nobody can convince me otherwise. Because there are different deities, that I've, just venerate. I definitely go to, like Nicole said, my ancestors first. And I tend to elevate my ancestors to God. Like I feel like, the sun rises and sets with my grandmother. And you can't tell me she's not a God. You just can't tell her you couldn't tell her she wasn't a God. So I just think, with sexuality, which is this such a great conversation, I really feel like it comes down to finding your tribe. It comes down to finding, you know, people that affirm you in your spiritual path, on your spiritual path, on your journey. Not you're not going to be met with people that are accepting of you being queer. You're not. Everybody ain't able to do that. I always say people can only receive you based on their own level of consciousness. So if you are not conscious enough to receive me, that, again, like Nyla said, that is not my problem. But I'm still going to show up as me, and you still going to feel it. So that's just it. That's how I feel.
I saw Ia doodling. I was just waiting for the snaps.
I would like to add to that. This is such a great question because it's so broad and it has a lot to do with what we go through in very individual levels. And I know one of the things that I've learned to tell myself and other people is that your faith can change. And I'm talking daily, regularly. Okay. And one of the things that we tie ourselves to is the discipline of a religion or spirituality. And I feel that once you've grown to a spot in your lives and you understand what that process and that learning was, then it's perfectly okay, even before then, to decide on something else. And so when I call God, Goddess, it changes for me. Right now it is Isheshe, and that's working for me. I feel that I came to Earth specifically for Isheshe, and then for sexuality, my story is one that I just feel like it's so different because I had it so easy when it came to my elders. And I happened to have a Baptist grandmother, preacher. And so when I came out, it was like I didn't have to worry about being shunned at all by her. And so my sexuality and presenting it was easy for me. But the thing that tested me wasn't the sexuality and spirituality or religion. It was me finding out who I really was, because the sexuality wasn't even the thing. It was more than that. And that was what got me. But it helped me so much to have a family, my grandmother, to be able to say, you're good. Focus on what you came here to learn. Okay. Who you date and who you are with is not my concern. What did you come here to learn? So yeah, I can go on and on about that. So I wanted to answer that question.
Let me jump
Real
in there.
quick.
This is good stuff. This is good stuff. Let me jump in there. So for me, because of my life path, I have needed God to be different things. I've needed God, the presence. I've needed Jesus, the liberator. I've needed the Holy Spirit to comfort me because of some of the challenges that I've experienced. And so I've borrowed language from one of my spiritual mothers, Bishop Jacqueline Holland, my mother, my father, my everything, God. It depends on what I need in a particular situation or a particular day. Like you said, I need different things each day. I'm a homegirl from the project. So I talk to God like we sit on the steps eating some Bonton barbecue chips. Sometimes I need the womanist girl. It depends, So it depends on my needs daily. And regarding my sexuality, God and God's all three parts, God the presence, Jesus the liberating Son, and the Holy Spirit sits right there inside me with my orientation. And the Bible says in Psalms 139, before you formed me, you knew me. You formed me. So you took me into consideration when you were crafting who I was. So we don't have an issue. Like Nana said, that's other people's issue. That has nothing. So I just carry the sexuality right along with me. It's just a part of who I am. So I don't understand why religion. Well, I do know why religion has an issue, and we might get into it later. But it's not my issue. Religion will be all right. It'll be just fine. So that's how I feel.
I love that. I love that. And it's so true. Like God really does give you, or as we say in Isheshe, Eladumari really does give you what you need when you need it and who you need when you need them. And so, especially in Isheshe practices, I can imagine, I think, Kim, you're the only person here that may not have had a roadblock or potential,
Let me answer because it's kind of interesting because I really relate to what a lot of you all said, especially finding your tribe and being willing to change, because I was a practicing Christian at one time. I wasn't really raised with any kind of religion. So that was actually helpful when I came out because I didn't have those teachings and any of that internalized barriers because I hadn't been brought up that way. But there was a time when I just felt like what I was doing wasn't working for me. And I was open. I met someone who was like the most encouraging person I had ever known up until that time. And I was like, what is your secret? How are you always so positive about everything that happens in life? And she was like, well, I've been practicing Buddhism for 30 years. And so that's what, drew me to this. And to answer your question about what is God, there's different sects of Buddhism, just like Christianity or any other faith, right? The one that I practice, Nichiren Buddhism, we don't worship a deity. So we believe in the historical Buddha, who was a real person. He lived in India. He wrote teachings. His highest teaching was the Lotus Sutra. But we believe that he was just like us. So we are all the Buddha. We are all a version of God. And that's how we can chant and find out what we need inside ourselves. So we use a mantra. We say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. You may have heard it from Tina Turner, and what's love got to do with it. She changed her life, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And it just simply means devotion to the mystic law of cause and effect through sound. So that cause and effect is at play all the time, and it represents our interconnectedness of life. So with going on to sexuality, there's no things you're not supposed to do in Buddhism. There's no like, oh, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't smoke, you shouldn't do that. You can do it all. You could even, you could do something terrible to someone. You can, but the mystic law will always prevail. So, there is a relationship between your actions, your causes, and your effects. If I want more positive effects in my life, I'm going to make more positive causes. So that's really what it comes down to, my actions and who I am and what I represent. So thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because today I actually read an article that came in from Washington, D.C., and it was actually a study that was done on Black women in Christianity. So I love, Kim, that you mentioned that you came kind of partially from a Christian background, but not so much, because in this study that was conducted, it says about 87% of Black women are leaving the Christian church, or excuse me, a smaller percentage are leaving the Christian church, but 87% of women lean on the church, right? And so that's a big number. And so we'll take that. The remaining people are leaving the Christian church. And so I guess that really leads me to ask you all, like, if you came from a Christian background and you no longer practice Christianity, how did you end up here where you are? What led you to your faith path? Like, what was that thing that happened, right? So I'll start. For me, it was just something that I knew that I needed to do. It was in my spirit. I kept running from it. It kept showing up. Okay. So for me, I knew I just had to submit to that. And I am too someone that grew up in the Christian church. I had a praying grandmother, still got a praying mother. I had a grandmother that went to the Baptist church in the morning, and then we ate real quick and we changed our clothes and put our doilies on our head. And then we went across town to Pentecostal church, and we stayed in Pentecostal church until 7 o'clock. So I knew going home on Friday, all your homework got to be done because you're not going to have time on Sunday night because you're going to be in church from 7 a.m. to about 10 o'clock at night in real life. But there was something in my spirit that drew me at a very young age, right? To the concept of the Orisha, to the concept of Isheshe. And there were like pivotal moments in my life where it just kept showing up. And I was just like, well, what is this? you know? Um, and so for me, it was just, it came down to I had to stop running. That was it. I had to stop running. So what was that thing for you that propelled you into the faith practice that you study now?
So, it was interesting. I was listening to Leslie earlier, and you were just so completely right. I think that for some people, and I say for some people, that your relationship with God is just as fluid as it can be fluid. And I think that I encourage my children to explore religion. You have to explore it. You have to find what works for you. Don't be Muslim because mommy's Muslim, because mommy wasn't always Muslim. I grew up in the Christian church, like most Black women did. Grew up in the Black Christian church and went to was Baptist, and all my family is Baptist. There was something about Christianity that just wasn't that I just couldn't connect with. It was just one thing. And that's when I learned about Islam, and then it, kind of the mind bomb, like, oh yeah, that works. And that worked for a very long time. And during that time, there was just one thing that I was having some difficulty with. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing as a Muslim woman. I got married. I had children. I was studying. I was reading Quran, learning Arabic, going to the masjid, doing my Muslim woman thing. But I just liked women, and that was an issue. And I continued to pray. I asked Allah, please, will you take this desire for women away from me? And I did everything I was supposed to do, because if you worship God, then God will answer your prayers. And I was a very good Muslim, but the desire never left. And when the desire never left, that came, some real conflict came in my heart. It was, well, what am I supposed to do with this religion? Is God ignoring me? Does he not love me? Does he not care about me? Does he even exist at all? Because I'm asking for help and I'm not getting those answers. And Kim, that's when I learned of Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism. And it was through Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism. I am so grateful. I still chant today when I need clarity, when I'm a little confused, when I need to be on a certain road. I will still chant for clarity, because Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism taught me exactly what Kim said. There is no right or wrong. There's cause and effect. Once I came to understand that, this is why I say I'm so glad that God brought me back to Islam, because I'm able to apply some of that into my religion. I don't pick and choose what part of the religion I want to follow. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what the Quran says for me to do, and I do my very best to uphold those things. But I've decided that I'm not going to go to hell. And I pray that I'm not going to go to hell, because I love women. I have decided that God is going to, that there are other things that I can maybe work on not doing, which is where polygamy comes in really well for me as a bisexual woman in Islam. Polygamy is a great option. Well, maybe if I get married, is that still fornicating? So, but I do think that road of exploring different religions, different points of faith, learning what God put here. God created it all. He created it all. The devil didn't create any of it. The devil did not create any of it. The devil doesn't have the power to create. He only has the power to whisper. So if God created all of it, then why can't I learn about all of it? And why can't I create what works for me, pray about it, and ask for the Lord to receive it and to bless me because of it?
I think that is the beauty and the fluidity of enlightenment, that you can grow up in a Christian environment because, again, Christianity never left me. A lot of people have the misconception that witches
are not in the church. We are in the church with y'all. We in the church. Some of us love the church. And I'm one of those people that I love the church. I posted about this not too long ago, and my family who read it absolutely knows I love the church. So you're going to see my witchy self sitting there praising God and praising my ancestors for getting me over, because with they praised God in the church, and then they went home and they taught us a little bit different. And I researched a little bit about Kuan Yin, and I loved Kuan Yin. Like I fully understood a need for Kuan Yin to be in my life when I was going through a devastating emotional crisis. So different deities were presenting themselves to me, and I was like, well, wait a minute though. We were taught, and again, not taking away, my family called themselves witches. Our ancestors said witches. I don't think they really used that term back then, but we kind of took it over. But hoodoo in and of itself was always scary, to the outside world, and it's secretive. And I think that's what makes it scary, because there's secrets that we are not able to divulge to people on the outside. And so in the church, all the witches were sitting right there amongst everybody else, praising, shouting, catching the Holy Spirit, and it's hilarious when I hear objections to it, because folks are like, oh, well, you talk to dead people, that's not right. Well, prophetesses in the church do the same thing that I do. They do the same thing that my grandmother did. They do but you call it something different, and at the end of the day, I think it says a lot for the women on this panel to talk about being brought up in the church. And some of us will still be in the church because that is where our ancestors praised. That's where our ancestors, felt comfortable and safe, and for whatever reason they did, and it's because of them that we're able to be enlightened beings. It's because of the blood that run through us that we are able to take it up a notch, and borrow a little bit from Buddhism, and borrow a little bit from voodoo, borrow a little bit from Ifa, borrow a little bit from hoodoo. It's that speaks to how enlightened we are, and I'm proud of us for that. I wouldn't take anything away from my upbringing in the church. And on many occasions, my ancestors, especially when I wanted something, I will go over there and I will sing. I will sing every song that my auntie played. And Nyla knows my auntie. She was in the church. She was in the church in Perry directing the choir. If she want to hear something, I'm going to sing it. I'm going to sing it. So we honor them by keeping by respecting where they were. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful to borrow from whatever you learn on your journey.
Sam, you want to sing for us? I'm just playing. I ain't gonna make you sing. So I imagine that there are some people that are listening in, that are tuning in, and we've thrown a couple of things around tonight that people might not conceptually understand. So I'm gonna throw this to Priestess Nyla. Ancestor work and also shadow work. What is that?
Um, thank you so
You're
much for
welcome.
throwing this to me. It's interesting because I was thinking as you guys were just answering the last question, because I grew up Presbyterian, and people are always really like, when I say that, as my soror just did over there in the corner, because it's such an interesting denomination to come up under. But the elders that I came up under were the epitome of Black excellence. And because they were the epitome of Black excellence, and they were all worldly people who had traveled and experienced and had learned, they welcomed my inquisitiveness and they fed it. So I've always been free to learn and to explore. Um, and so hoodoo is kind of the culmination. If you don't know anything about hoodoo, when people say hoodoo or conjure or root work, you go Hollywood. You go straight Hollywood. The important thing is, the main thing that we do as hoodoo priestesses is we pray. We just know how to pray. And so when you get started with hoodoo, which I think is what I enjoyed so much about it, before you even need to learn how to touch a root, how to touch an herb, how to do an, as above, so below, you have to come to confront yourself, which is where that shadow work comes in. Because if you're not careful, the trauma that you carry with you will insert itself into the work that you do, and it will insert itself into how you see things. When you're doing a bone divination, it will insert itself into what you're reading on someone else. So you have to do your shadow work so that you can heal yourself. And shadow work is not anything complicated, it's not anything hard. It is literally just looking at the stuff that's hiding in your shadows, hiding in the dark, the stuff that you have been ignoring all of your life that you know you need to work on. When people say they have baggage, you need to unpack it. The stuff in your bag are your shadows, and you have to just face them. You have to figure out what trauma you're carrying and how to heal it by asking yourself really hard questions and sitting with yourself until you can answer them. And so that's really the first thing. The second thing is what we as Black people already know to be true, and that is honoring your elders. Your ancestors are still your elders. They came before you, they deserve your respect. And so that's really what ancestor veneration is about. It's not anything scary, it's not anything really bad or at all, which is another concept of hoodoo. Like, there's no good and bad. It's just left-handed, right-handed, two extremes of the exact same coin, and which side you happen to be pushing on that particular day. It's all about balance. But when it comes to your ancestors, nobody gets anywhere except through them. You need them to help you, just like you needed your elders that were living to help you. And those people that were once living that are no longer living, that is a plethora of knowledge. You come from that knowledge. And so to leave it as an untapped resource, well, that's just silly. Because you don't have to. You can sit and venerate your ancestors through feeding them, through talking to them, through spending time with them. My favorite thing is I like playing in dirt, like plants. And so when I play in plants, I talk to my ancestors by name, the ones that I know, because I'm just spending time with them. And yeah, I do hear them in my head because I'm actually very scary. So if they were to walk up on me, I probably would join them. And that's kind of the understanding that we have. Like, we can do all kinds of stuff in the head, but we don't want to do anything in the physical. And they're okay with that for now. So it just goes back to your relationship with the God you serve, the practices that you believe in, the path you're walking. Ain't nobody's business but yours. It doesn't need to look like anything else. Your shadow work is not my shadow work. We got two totally different kinds of traumas happening. And that's just that. It's just getting comfortable with yourself, getting comfortable with where you come from, and using that information to know where you're going.
Awesome. So I know we're coming up on time. I wish we could do this all day, have a workshop maybe. All right. Beta Kappa, Beta Iota, Beta Lambda. We need to kind of talk about how we're going to do that.
You can do it.
But I definitely, Beta Delta, sorry. I definitely want to leave our audience really with this question, and this is really for those who are still struggling. And if you can answer, I would really love for everyone to answer it. But for the people that may be struggling with their sexuality in connection to their faith walk or their faith path, what advice would you give them?
Let me jump on this one because Christianity is a big old bully. It is a bully, even though it's one of the youngest in the family. Go figure. There's always the baby. Anyway, my offering would be, you were created in the beauty of who God is, and that is so vast and that is so massive that you can't put it in a collection of 66 copy and pasted books, some of the truth which is not even there. There's only 7 scriptures in the Bible that are telling you that you're a mistake and it's all a lie. I mean, they couldn't even get the skin color right. I mean, come on. So at the end of the day, what wakes you up and what rests you at night, trust that energy, trust that power, that God created you to be who you are, point blank, period. And at the end of the day, This is for those who are Christian or struggling with Christianity. Don't believe none of the lies. If it was that important, Jesus hung around 12 dudes. Girl. 2 men kissed in the Bible. Girl. And when they asked Jesus, he said nothing. And even said, some people born like that. That's just it. Anyway, there's so much we get wrong with religion. What we need to get right is that the same way that Jesus embraced people, had conversations, and met them where they are is how we should all treat each other. Do not let religion scare you. Christianity is a bully. God is amazing. Get to know God on your own terms. If you feel it, go with it. That's what I say. If you feel it, go with it. Don't let religion hold you back. Bottom line.
So I would like to add, sorry, Sharice, sorry about that.
No, please. By all means.
I would say self-talk. How you're speaking to yourself. It doesn't matter, why you get into a religion, if you have to, if you want to. Sometimes you're trying to find a way because of how you've spoken to yourself, how you've viewed yourself, and how you've judged yourself. So the first thing that I would say is get to talking to yourself nicer and kinder each day. And let that be your religion. Let that be your first thing. And let that be your discipline. Because while you think that finding a religion is good and spirituality is good, you can't do anything without some type of discipline and learning about it, right? So you're going to have to start with yourself first. And if you have a hard time building that muscle of speaking to yourself in the most kindest way in the morning, like your prayer to yourself, then you're going to have a hard time understanding any religion and spirituality because you're not seeing the God and goddess within yourself. You are seeing it outside of yourself, and you're seeing all the things of other perspectives that have nothing to do with you. And so when you begin to speak to yourself in the kindest ways, no matter if you feel you've made a mistake, if you've gotten up there and did a speech and you feel you've done bad, it doesn't matter. Anything. When you're waking up in the morning, if you're trying to find a regimen to pray to, let it be yourself. Let it thank yourself for waking up in the morning so you can at least understand the God and goddess within you. So that would be my little advice.
Thank you. That's good. For anyone that is practicing Islam and is struggling with your religion, so Leslie, I have to say, I have to disagree. I think that Islam is a bigger bully. Islam is a bigger bully. Absolutely. And Islam it's a very rigid religion. It can be very rigid. It's full of rules. And it is easy to feel like you can't live up to those rules. I just want to remind you that you can't. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah is the most merciful. He is the most merciful. He is the biggest of, God is the biggest of mercy. And it is a mercy that we wake up every single day. It is a mercy that we're able to inhale and get up and walk. And so it is the same mercy that knows good and well who you are. The ink, it has already been written and the ink is dried. There is nothing else that you can do besides be yourself, exactly who He created. There's nothing else. So be yourself. Understand who you are. Like Nicole said, understand who you are. And then go and take those issues up with your Lord and say, I need you to let me know what I'm supposed to be doing here. And if the Lord takes all of your imperfections away from you, please send us an email. And I'm not saying that sexuality is an imperfection, because it's not. I'm saying that we're full of them. And so you just have to be yourself, love yourself, and love your Lord. And know that your Lord loves you.
I'll just borrow from my grandmother, Ibashe, to my grandmother, Leola McCoy. She gave no F's. And she used to say, ain't nobody got a heaven or a hell to put you in. Nobody has a heaven or hell to put you in. And that's I'm going to stick beside it. I say it all the time. So when you have that understanding and you move about life, like Ia said, like, first talk nice to yourself, talk nice to yourself. But at the end of the day, because this is if you are internally struggling, it is time to do some shadow work. I mentioned it early on. Nyla also mentioned it. Shadow work will get you right. And it's a commitment. But in the back of your mind and every day say it, ain't nobody got a heaven or hell to put me in. Nobody. I don't care who it is. Some of us can cause hell because we are conjure people. It's all about balance, but nobody has a heaven or hell to put you in regarding your sexuality. So peace to everybody that's struggling with that. And there are some people around the table that offer readings, services, counseling, things that can help you, just to kind of aid in your self work. So maybe utilize those benefits, those people, because they're healers, they're light workers, they're conjure people, they're root workers, they do numerology, they do spiritual advisement. Talk to them. Use your resources.
Oh, and that Bible hell, it ain't real, y'all. So yeah, that.
So I think that it's super interesting that when we start talking about these traditional spiritualities, one, they have some common threads. And I think that those commonalities really tell us where reality lies, because one of the commonalities is coming into yourself, right? And so I think if you're struggling, I think that if you cannot make an affirmative statement recognizing the divinity in yourself, then that's where you start. It doesn't matter what path you want to follow or what belief system you want to go down or what road you think you want to study. If you don't see the God in you, that's where you have to start first, because it's just really simple science. A duck does not give birth to an elephant. So if you are Christian based and you believe that God the Father exists and that he made you in his image, then that means that you have divinity in you. And if you cannot accept that about yourself, then that's where I think that you have to start, is just finding your own divinity. And I think once you find your own divinity, I think that that's what opens the door, at least for me. That's what opens the door and allows you to go down the path you want to go down. I think it's just introducing yourself to yourself first and getting to know who that person is and what that person needs. And then everything else will fall into place. And you just have to trust that God provides, Ifa provides, the universe provides, nature provides. That's the central theme. So just allow the provisions to take you where you're supposed to go.
And I would add, I really agree with the idea of positive self-talk, positive affirmation, and acceptance. And if you're out there struggling with your spirituality, with your sexuality, you're probably not a Nichiren Buddhist. So I'm gonna just talk to anybody who's out there struggling. I'm gonna just say that because that's not a part of it. But if you're out there struggling, in addition to really being kind to yourself and finding the divinity in yourself, I would really challenge you to think about your mission. Because in Buddhism, our mission that we come here to do is very important. And we all come here with a very unique and specific mission for our life. And it could be missions, there could be more than one, different phases in your life and things that you came here to do. So when I have connected with my mission, I've been able to let go of some of whatever those hurts were. Mine might not have been my sexuality, but it could have been other things that I was struggling with, hurting with. I would say connect with that mission, because that can propel you to care for yourself better, to get on the right path, to say, you know what, I do want to carry out my mission. I know what it is or I don't. I want to get in touch with it or I want to carry it out. And some of these steps of caring for yourself and finding a spiritual path are fundamentals to be able to carry out your mission on this earth. And we all have limited time. So I would say, don't wait, don't delay, don't put it off another day. If you feel that prompting, go ahead and start something, tonight, even to just even journal or something to think about, what am I here to do? And what do I need in my life in order to carry that out?
Amazing. Well, our great ancestor, the legendary and magnificent Carl Bean, said that we are born this way. And he also said that God is love and love is for everyone. And Vogue said, free your mind and the rest will follow, right? There you go. So a lot of it is locked up in your head. So once you free your mind, everything else will fall into place. Treat yourself. Go into 2022 with good character. Isheshe religion is about having good character. And as long as you have good character, that alone will change your life. I want to give a shout out to my LS for that shirt. God said, yes.
Yes, honey.
I also want to apologize to and give a loving bow and shout out to the ladies of the Beta Iota Chapter who assisted us in this Coexist endeavor. Thank you, Sorors, for joining in on this. I think we'll be talking about maybe a part 2 to this at some time in the future. And thank you to Beta Kappa, to the National Board of Beta Phi Omega Sorority Incorporated, to Delta Alpha, to Alpha Alpha, to Beta Delta. I'm trying to get all the chapters in here. I love you, ladies. This was a truly, truly much needed conversation, and I just can't thank you enough for your yes. To everyone joining in, I hope that you have learned a lot. And hold off. You never know. There may be a part 2. Good night, everyone. Happy holidays. Stay safe.
Good night.